Hi there. That was Brain Stew by Green Day, and I want to use Brain Stew as a vehicle to introduce one version of what are called power chords. So, power chords can be a lot of different things, but in this case, they only have two notes held down by two different fingers. Okay? So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to a PDF that I've made and do a screen recording showing the tabs and how to read that. And then we'll switch back and we'll pick it up with what to do with the left hand and what to do with the right hand, and we'll run through the riff a couple of times. Okay, so here is the tablature and the music for Brain Stew. So the music is across the top and the tabs are at the bottom here. And those of you who have never read tab before, I'll just quickly go through it. The first string is represented by this top line. And then we have the second line representing the second string, the third line represents the third, and so on, all the way down to the sixth, which is represented by the bottom line. The numbers are the fret numbers. So this would be the 5th fret and the 7th fret, the 3rd fret and the 5th fret, and so on. And in every case, for every chord except for this last chord, we're going to finger it the same way. So the lower number, in this case the 5, will be held down with the index finger or first finger, and the higher number, the 7, will be held down with the third finger. The first finger will hold the 5th fret of the 6th string, and the third finger will hold the 7th fret of the 5th string. And then when we go to the next chord, we'll do the same kind of thing. We'll put the first finger on 3 on the 6th string, and we'll put the third finger on 5 on the 5th string. It'll work the same for this chord. The first finger for the 2nd fret here, and the third finger for the 4th fret, and then we'll do it the same way when we get to this chord. Some of you may find it easier to, when you get to the last chord, to hold down the 2nd fret with your 2nd finger. Some of you might find it easier just to take your 3rd finger, which is already on the 5th string, and just kind of slide it back to the 2nd fret. So you could do it that way too, but in either case the 6th string is played open. Because we're using the same fingering for the left hand all the way through, you should leave your fingers on the strings. In other words, leave your first finger always in contact with the 6th string so that you can just kind of slide it back to the 3rd fret and then slide it back to the 2nd, and so on. And you should do the same thing with the 3rd finger on the 5th string. So in the first chord you'll be at the 7th fret, and then you'll slide your 3rd finger back and hold down the 5th fret, and so on. And that just makes it easier and faster and more efficient to get from one chord to the next. The other thing that we want to do, which is kind of unusual, this tune is pretty fast. Typically with power chords, because there are so few notes in them, we would want to do just downstrokes to get a uniform sound from one chord to the other. But in this case, I would recommend using alternate strumming because of the quickness of these pairs of chords. They go by rapidly, and you need to be able to come back with the 2nd chord very quickly. And then also there's another part of the song which is sort of a variation on this, which has what are called choke chords in here, which are much easier to do if you're alternating between down and upstrokes. So just very quickly, the downstroke is represented by this symbol, the upstroke is represented by the V, and you can see we just do them in pairs. So we play the same chord twice with a down and then an upstroke, and then we do it again for the next and the next and then the last two. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this, you strum fast and rapidly enough to get to clear both strings, but not so far that you would include any of the other strings. So we don't want to accidentally hit the third or the fourth string, for instance, but just hit the sixth and fifth and then come back immediately with our upstroke and hit the same strings with the upstroke. So that's basically it. I don't want to get into rhythm too much other than to say that each pair of chords happens on a specific beat. The first pair will happen on beat 1 of the first measure, then we won't do anything on beat 2, then we'll play the next pair of chords on beat 3, then we won't do anything on beat 4. In the next measure we'll play the third chord on beat 1, we'll skip beat 2 and not play anything, and then we'll play the second to last chord on beat 3, and we'll play the last chord on beat 4. So it'll be chord, miss a beat, chord, miss a beat, chord, miss a beat, chord, chord, like that. Each time playing each chord rapidly twice. So now I'm going to switch over back to the camera and we'll show you how to do this with both the right and left hands. Okay, so let's start out talking about the right hand because again in this song that's probably the simplest thing to start with. So each chord is going to get played twice, and what we want to try and do is we want to strike the sixth and the fifth string as a pair rapidly enough so that they sound as as a chord and not as two separate notes. We don't want this, for instance. Okay, so we don't want to drag the pick slowly across the strings, but to really attack it so that we hit both. But we want to be careful not to hit any extra strings. So we want to try and keep our stroke short enough so that we don't bump into the fourth string. And we're going to immediately follow that downstroke with an upstroke. We want to do exactly the same thing and move the pick rapidly enough across the strings so that we get the notes to sound as one. So that's going to sound like this. Okay? It's about that fast. Each chord is played in pairs, one downstroke and one upstroke. So we start with that. Now let's talk a little bit about the left hand. Okay, so the very first chord, if you've got the tab in front of you, which you can download from my website, guitarlessonsincolumbia.com, you can find it on the sample lesson page. If you've got that in front of you, you'll see in the tab that we've got the 5th fret of the 6th string and we've got the 7th fret of the 5th string, and we want to hold down the 5th fret with the first finger, and we want to hold down the 7th fret of the 5th string with the third finger. And we're going to play our downstroke and our upstroke, and then we're going to take both fingers without letting them lose contact with the strings, just slide them down the neck so that you wind up with the first finger holding down the 6th string at the 3rd fret and the third finger holding down the 5th string at the 5th fret. And then we're going to do the same thing with our right hand, a rapid down and upstroke, like that. Then we're going to slide both fingers 1 fret back so that the first finger is at the 2nd fret of the 6th string, and the third finger is at the 4th fret of the 5th string. Again, we're going to play our rapid down and upstroke, and then we're going to slide back yet another fret so that now we have our first finger on the 6th string at the 1st fret, our third finger on the 5th string at the 3rd fret, and we'll do our down and upstroke. And some of you may, just because 2 is kind of close by, may want to do the last chord this way with the 6th string played open with no fingers and the 5th string played at the 2nd fret with the 2nd finger. Others of you coming from the chord before may find it easier just to slide back again so that we have the 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and the 1st finger just kind of slides right off behind the nut, this piece of white bone or plastic is called the nut. Okay, and so once we've done that, we want to play our rapid down and upstroke on that. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is go through and play it slowly, but play it in rhythm. And before in the screen recording I mentioned that the chords happen on specific beats. So the first chord is going to happen on the first beat, then we're going to skip beat 2, then we're going to play the next chord on beat 3, then we're going to skip beat 4. In the next measure we'll play the third chord on beat 1, skipping beat 2, we'll play the third chord on beat 3, and we'll play the last chord on beat 4. And then the whole thing will repeat. So I want to do this slowly at first so you can play along. And I'm going to be counting what are called 16th counts. So the counting is 1 E and 2 E and like that. But I'm going to do it very slow. So let me count it off. I'll start at 3. I'll go 3 E and 4 E and then we'll start on 1. Alright, so very slowly. 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and repeat. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay, so that's the rhythm of it at a slow speed. Now let's take it up a little faster to sort of a more medium speed. I'll count it off the same way. 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 and okay, kind of running out of air there. So now let's go a little faster than that. Maybe not quite full speed, but almost. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 and now let's take it up to the full speed and we'll play it that way one time. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so I probably sound a little ridiculous doing all of that counting, but it really can help if you're having trouble getting the timing down. If you're not, you can just sort of skip over that part of the video, this part of the video. In any case, that's how to play Brain Stew by Green Day, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson. And once again, if you want to download the PDF graphic that I put in the earlier part of the lesson, you can come to my website, guitarlessonsincolumbia.com, and download it at the sample lesson page. There'll be a link for it underneath the video player. Thanks again.